and the elephant. This is so
wow.
interesting. Again, it was like 90, it had the eye, okay? It had, I just had to put the trunk and the tail on and stuff like that, okay? But it's a beautiful little piece all by itself. And most of the pieces I do, I use wax, and I just polish them with wax, okay? So this took a nice polish for me, okay?
That is something
Yeah, that one
beautiful.
made to order. Also, if you notice, if you get up close, the ram, there's a little stone in the eye. Okay, just part of the way, a lot of driftwood has stones in them because they grow down in the sand and everything. So the stones are actually embedded in the wood, all right? So it's right embedded in the ram's eye, all right? Then this little critter, it's the only piece I didn't have to carve at all. All I had to do was put wax on it and polish it up a little bit, okay? For a long time I called it a critter, or it could be a mouse, you know, whatever you like it to be. But he belongs in there. All right, so that's all about Noah's Ark. And we know the story how the waters rise and, you know, they're waiting and waiting for the flood to stop and to get back on dry ground. And so they finally send the dove or a raven, whatever you want, out. Okay, and the first time he goes out, he comes back with a branch. All right. Second time he goes out, he doesn't come back. As we know, he stays away because now the water is receding, life is going to go on again. Okay, so that's a nice little piece. I like that. That polished up very well. All right.
Wow.
So he goes over here. By the way, this is Father Viet from Tarrytown, okay, Carmelite. All right. Spend a lot of time studying here and everything like that. So he's doing some videotaping for me, so we might have this in our repertoire for future use, you know? All right, so that's the story then, ending with the earth comes back to life again, everything's starting to go along very well until man starts to mess it up again, okay? People start to sin, start to get in trouble, and so on, all right? And so what God finally decides is, I've got to get somebody that can be a leader of the people. We'll get this little group of people to show the rest of the people how to live, which is essentially what Abraham is all about. Okay, Abraham is going to found this chosen people. Chosen people are going to follow God's way, and then other people in the world are going to be able to take them as a model. All right? And so then the whole story about Abraham, God calling Abraham and so on, and of course that's where the ram comes in. Okay, with Isaac going up the mountain, okay, to use Isaac as their sacrifice. When I do this with kids, I do it in Bloomingburg almost every year. I have them walking with me, going up the mountain, just like Abraham, with Isaac, wondering, where are we going? What's this all about? And so on, all right? The interesting thing, they had a TV movie called The Bible, maybe 25 years ago or something like that. 3 hours, they're going to give us the Bible. Said, how are they going to do that? Okay, the 10 Commandments was 4 hours, right? And other stories, you know, from the Bible and stuff like that. The interesting thing is that the movie, about 75% of the movie is the story of Isaac and Jacob. Okay, just going, and Abraham rather, Abraham and Isaac going up and up and up and up and up and up. And then the message, of course, is this is the foundation, the faith of Abraham, okay, becomes the faith of the people of God, the chosen people. All right, so anyway, so that goes on, everything's okay for a while, people of Israel start to sin, get in trouble, okay, God is punishing them, as we know, it's back and forth all the way, they're good for a while, they're bad for a while, okay, and so that ploy didn't exactly work, and so now we start to move into the era of preparation for a Messiah. We will send a Messiah into the world to save us from all of these sins, from all of the things that we're doing wrong. Okay? And so then we start with the prophets. The greatest of whom is Elijah. The Carmelite Elijah, right? Okay. He's the one representing, of course, on Mount Tabor. Okay, with Moses, he represents the... oh, wait a second. We forgot about Moses. We got to go back to Moses again. Okay, so as things get worse and worse and worse, they finally are taken into captivity into Egypt. Okay, they grow in numbers, they need a leader, Moses becomes their leader. Okay, we know that Moses meets God out in the wilderness somewhere in a burning bush, right? So we just happen to have a burning bush on hand. Now this is fascinating because that's the real color of the wood.
Wow.
I didn't have to do anything to that at all, and the real shape of the wood. All I had to do was wax it a little bit, okay? So he fits in beautifully to take that little piece of the story for us. If I can get it back in pretty close. All right, Brent, there you are. Some of these are a little difficult to set originally. All right, so then you get Moses and you get the chosen people and you get the promised land and things are going good again for a while and then the people sin, Moses' people sin. That's when the prophets come into play, okay? So Elijah's the greatest, he's the paradigm. All the other prophets are going to take the same message. Basically, they call Elijah the man of God, all right? And he's there to tell people what God wants, to destroy anything that is not godly in the world. And of course, he destroys the prophets of Baal, okay? And that's a great story. The kids love when I get into that whole drama. I won't replay it right now, okay? But the battle between the prophets of Baal and Elijah, and how he finally sets the altar up, all of those things, and wins the battle, kills all of the false prophets, okay? So Elijah then is on the run, all right? Jezebel is angry with him because he killed all of her prophets, and she's after him, and so she chases him. He's on the run, he goes out into the desert, as we know, and he wants to die. He just decides, I've had enough, Lord. I'm too old, I've been doing this for too long, take my life. So he's under what they call the furze bush or the broom tree or whatever, okay? Asleep, God comes, wakes him up, feeds him, goes to sleep. God feeds him a second time, tells him to go to Mount Horeb, all right? And he will meet him there, all right? So Elijah goes to Mount Horeb and he hides in a cave. All right, and then of course you have the drama of the earthquake and the fire and the noise and the confusion, and then God coming in the gentle breeze. Okay, so that's another thing that was carved into the original, the cave for Elijah, but I had to put a little extension on it so I could get him in there. Okay, cave is too small for him. This piece of wood is very interesting. It's just a very white type of color. I don't even know what it is. All right, most of them you cut into them, they're darker, but this was almost white. So Elijah gets up to his cave, and the story continues, all right? And then the other prophets then continue to carry on the message of Elijah to the people, okay, about what God wants of them. I will be your God, you will be my people, all of that, okay? So we have a few representations of the other prophets, like Isaiah, not Isaiah. Isaiah, we're using him right now throughout Advent, okay? And the lion and the lamb. All right, so they're going to fit into the picture too. The lamb comes from this original wood that the snake and other things came from. Okay, the lion was different, oddly shaped, but once you get him in there, his head is fine. Okay, his head came out okay. The rest of them is weird, so you don't think about the rest of them. Okay, but we get him into position because we're getting closer now to the actual birth of Jesus. There we go. All right. So the prophets are there to prepare for the coming of the Lord. Last of the great prophets, of course, is John the Baptist. All right. So the whole prophetic tradition works their way up to John the Baptist. John is announcing it's imminent. It's about to happen. The Lord is coming. Okay. Prepare yourselves. We know the whole thing. We're going through it. That's very much what Advent is all about. All right. So I found myself a shell. Or made a shell out of a piece of driftwood, okay, to represent the baptizing of John the Baptist, okay? So that's what fits into this little slot up here. So, we're almost ready. Any questions so far? I mean, it may be about how I do this, or maybe about the different stories that we're telling, or you may have a suggestion, why did you throw this in there? Anybody?
I have a question.
Yeah.
It's all one piece, that driftwood?
This piece is, yes. Mm-hmm.
That's incredible.
And it's interesting because I had a whole other idea for it and I didn't use it, so I finally used it for that.
How come we have evil in the world?
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge,
Sure.
huge
Sure.
issue. How come there's such terrible violence and evil?
That's again this weekend. That was my homily this morning, an hour ago down in Mid-Hudson. How to deal with that, okay? Especially when Isaiah is making all these promises. There will be peace, the lion will live, with the lamb, and everything will be peaceful, and there'll be sin in the world, and well, come on, the Lord came 2,000 plus years ago, and is still there. But I'll take a little aside here for a moment, because Hans is a friend from way back in my university club days here in Middletown. We were in that same club together for years, and Hans is a pilot, and he's been after me for years and years and years to go up in his little plane, and I've been putting him off. No, I mean, I've been in little planes before, but anyway, he caught me over at St. Columbus about 2 weeks ago, got me in a stairway, I couldn't move, and he says, "We've got to make a date. When can you do this? What's the best day for you?" and so on. So I told him it would be a Wednesday morning, all right? And so he said, "Good, I go in and I give lessons, flying lessons on Wednesdays, all right? So come on in at such and such a time, we'll get in the plane, we'll fly around Orange County and stuff like that." So up we go. Okay, and that's nice, except when you bank the plane, But anyway, so he comes around my house in Bloomingburg, we took a look at that, it was a beautiful day for flying. Then he says, "I'm going over to the river." I said, "Okay." So he's in touch with the guy from LaGuardia, I guess it was, right? The
Yes.
guy, not dispatcher, what do they call that?
Air control. Yeah, air
Control tower or whatever. And he was a Papa, is that your nickname, or?
Yes, Papa.
Papa, okay, Papa, what do you want? "Well, I want to get down the river to the city. Is it open space?" "Okay, yeah, come on, stay at such and such an altitude, go on down, so we do. "I want to make a couple of circles around the Statue of Liberty." "Well, sure, okay, just keep it at that such and such an altitude.
Watch out for a helicopter.
Yeah, that's right, the helicopter, stay 2,000 because the helicopters are underneath you, okay? So we make these 2 circles, okay, we come back up the river again, stay by the Manhattan side of the river, okay? Okay, so we did that, we're going past the New World Trade Center, what do they call that now, I forget. One World Observatory, okay, so we're going past that. The wing of the plane is lower than the antenna going up on the top of the building. And it looked almost like you could just throw something over to the building. So we're flying along there, came up to the Tappan Zee Bridge, took a beeline back home to Orange County, and he says, "Here, Gus, hold the wheel for me." Well, he had his own wheel for teaching, so he says, "Hold the wheel for me." He's in his coat, looking for his cameras. I told you, you're giving me a heart attack. So anyway, then he got us landed anyway. But I used that last week in my homily, okay, just about this messiness of life. I said, it's never not going to be a mess, but God is in the mess, all right? And he's there for us, and we don't have to be perfect for him to do good things for us. That was a wonderful experience, a wonderful trip. It was tremendously elating for me, in spite of my own messiness, in spite of things that still I haven't completed or finished in my life, all right? So God is there, and he'll give us those moments from time to time, okay? So that's, in one way, Marty, a little how we deal with the evil and the disasters and everything else around us. All right, so getting back to the story. So John the Baptist comes, the birth of Jesus is imminent, and the star appears. Again, this one piece of driftwood with a little surgery done to it. All right, so he sits right on the top.
That goes up on the top. Here we
No,
go.
wrong one. So when we see the star, it's the sign that all of a sudden something's happening. Okay, and people are now ready for. Before we do that, however, I'm almost forgetting something. These things will be out next to the fireplace over here for about a month, okay? That's a picture of the whole thing, okay? And this is a guide. This is this, that is that, and so on, okay? To let people, anybody that comes in and wants to look at it, it's all there for you saying what things are, okay? But the bottom of this little blurb about me, okay, and where I come from and everything, says this. He's still searching, that's me, Father Gus, still searching for a few more pieces for the creche, like a butterfly, but they have not yet emerged. The spider came after a while, the bat came after a while, but the butterfly didn't come after a while. But I found the butterfly last night. But he's not finished. So I'm gonna pass him around, you can take a look at him, see if you can find the butterfly that I'm finding in this little piece of wood. It'll probably come in here, into this area somewhere, when I'm finished with it, underneath the bat. But here's what it looks like as it just came from the banks of the Hudson River about a week ago. So we continue then. So the prediction is that there's going to be a child born, okay, who will be the Messiah and all the promises and so on of the prophets, all of the prophets, all right? And so on the given day, we know the story about the shepherds and so on. We have this for Mary and the baby. Okay, we'll fit them in place, all right? And it's out of that one particular piece of wood.
Wow.
A little bit abstract in a sense, but you get the idea.
Very nice.
Nobody misses it. And then St. Joseph. I was trying to figure out what to do with this strange shape, so I put his foot on a log. All right, so when you see him in the piece itself,
Very nice.
that's how he stands with his foot up on a log. Okay? And then, of course, he has to have the shepherd. Okay. So the shepherd's there, and if you look closely, the sheep is right at the bottom of the shepherd, okay? And the staff, again, is from that same piece of wood and inserted in there, okay? So that's how he fits in. Am I doing this right here? Was a piece just, it looked like maybe the Lord or something like that.
Wow.
But it turned out to be the angel, okay? It's the angel that's protecting the child, okay? And so you have the evil one, you have Satan here, wants to get to the child, okay? As we read in a couple of different places in the Bible, okay, including Revelation, all right? And yet the protecting angel is there to keep him safe. So he's in between then, Satan trying to get to the child. The baby, of course, is also looking up at the cross, okay, because this is his destiny, all right? So that's kind of the whole story, except it would remain like this until Christmas and Christmas season. And then it's one last thing that has to be added, and we can only add it by taking the star away and replacing the star, okay? And that is the risen Lord, all right? I'll get that in a second. So normally at home, I just keep him on the side, okay? Because he's gonna be there eventually, okay? But then the star will have to come out, and the Lord will come into place. And then the story is complete,
Wow.
okay? And so that leads right up to the resurrection period. But of course, that's chapter 1, and we're not gonna do anything about chapter 2. But chapter 2 is actually the apostles, the beginning of the church, going on, continuing on down through the ages, okay? Interesting scene in Jesus of Nazareth. If you remember when the Mary Magdalene and the ladies come to the tomb, all right, the tomb is empty, they go running to the soldiers, they took his body, where did they take his? So one soldier comes over, he looks into the tomb, and he says, now it all begins. All right, so that's chapter 2, and that's the end of my presentation. Very simple. What, Mike?
Where did you get all, the wood, all over, every place?
Most of them I found on the banks of the Hudson in my family's place up there.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I'm up there, I walk along the beach and I'm looking for, you know, pieces, little pieces.
Wow.
I've done many, many other different things with them, some carving, some other, you know, decorative type of things. What, Marty? You're thinking. Wait, go ahead, Charlie, what?
He also built that statue on top of the roof outside of Lady Montgomery.
It's not on top of the roof, Charlie, it's on front of the building.
Oh.
But yeah, the aluminum statue that's on the front of the chapel
yeah.
building. Okay, yeah. Everything on the piece faces in toward the baby, except the rooster, which represents Peter denying the Lord, and the snake, Satan, being thrown out of the picture. Okay? Who else? Yes?
I'm just amazed that you can look at a piece of driftwood and you said you see this.
Yeah, did you get the bat yet? I mean, the,
Right here, it's over here.
okay, have you seen the,
I did. and
okay, how do you see it?
That's pretty, that one is more obvious to me. but
Okay, good.
I know that, I read, I don't know the exact quote, but Michelangelo used to say he would look at a piece of marble, or many pieces of marble, and know which one to work on, because he could see.
When I started wood carving, I wasn't doing the same thing that I'm doing now, okay? I was doing other more, you know, realistic type pieces that you form what you want to form, okay? But then as I went along, I just started to fall into this whole thing. And yes, I think there's a certain vision there, but also I will take a piece and I'll hold it in 10 or 15 different ways. You know, if you hold it this way, it's nothing. You hold it that way, oh, this could be it. And then things would speak to me, okay? Like with the butterfly. Okay, when I first picked up that piece, first of all, it was a big piece of driftwood, about this big, and that was just a little corner of it. Okay, and it looked weird. I was ready to throw it right back where I found it, all right? Except that one little part of it caught my eye, and I said, come on, Lord, I need my butterfly, you know? So it's like, I've been waiting so long for this, you know? And the same thing with the, when the spider came along, okay? There's just, it suggested itself. Some of them are very, very easy. The elephant was no contest at all. That was an elephant before I touched it, you know, I just fixed it up a little bit. All right, some of them it took a little bit more, you know, imagination. But
You
thanks.
truly have a gift.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, and
Well,
praise
it
God.
is, student.
I'm glad that I have that gift, and it's fun too, it's a good hobby, you know?
And that's a gift to us, that you were able to share and that you had the ability to put that all together. And my question is, does something like this continue? In other words, will you envision in your mind that there might be another piece
There-
needed for the story or?
Yeah, there may be magi coming.
Major.
Okay, major questionable in some ways, okay, as we know, but I did have one piece that I thought might accommodate, you know, but that's hard to find too. But I may be, you know, if it presents itself, I say, aha, there it is.
Well,
you
that
know,
too,
or-
I was thinking, is it that you find the piece first and then say, oh, okay?
In most
Maybe.
instances, yes, but in some, no. I mean, like the butterfly was a genuine search. I'm looking and looking and looking until I find something. Same with the spider, you know, and the bat. Okay, the bat, as I say, could have been a rat, you know, when I first picked it up because it had this long tail, you know. But I knew I wanted the bat someday, and I looked hard enough, and okay, touch it up a little here and there. You got a bat.
That is amazing.
So when did you do this then, or was it an ongoing project?
This has been going on since the year 2000.
Wow.
That's when I found the driftwood. Actually, the bigger piece of wood, when I was living in Williamstown, Mass, I went out and got a piece something like that, but it wasn't in by the stream or anything. It was up in the woods. And I brought it down to some friends of mine. We put it up over their fireplace. They had a huge fireplace and a huge, you know, chimney going up beyond it. We put that above the fireplace, and we would keep a chalice and a thing like a paten to hold bread. And every time I went to Christmas time with them, we'd have Mass together. And we'd take the chalice off of this piece of driftwood and use it for our Mass, all right? And then I was gonna do the same thing with another friend with this piece of wood, okay? But then it never came to be, and it came to be this, so this is much better anyway, so.
It's wonderful,
Yes.
really wonderful.
Okay, I mean, you're very welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, it was
Thank you.
wonderful.